Hello everybody, welcome to Ask JP. Today's question is from Vijay Lakshmi. She is from Yadgir. She is doing biological sciences undergraduation, BSc. Vijay Lakshmi, please go ahead.
Hello, sir. I'm Vijay Lakshmi. I'm currently pursuing my Bachelor of Science in Biology. I'm very glad that I got an opportunity to ask you a question. So, my question was related to politics. We see that leaders make a lot of promises to people before election, which we call it as election manifestations. And people vote these leaders in a hope of their dreams getting fulfilled. But most of these promises made by the leaders are not fulfilled once they become a leader. So, what measures can government take, or what measures can people take so that they can be avoided from being exploited by this false election manifestation made by the leaders? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Like many citizens in the country and voters, Lakshmi is concerned about the promises made before the elections not being honored. The manifestos are there only for publicity for a day or two. Nobody takes it seriously, is the general perception. But it's not actually true. So we often blame politicians because it becomes national pastime. Certain promises political parties and governments are delivering. Take Karnataka government that came to power today. Take any government practically. Wherever there's an individual welfare measure, not the measures required to be taken for collective good, that is the primary task of the government, there they are failing. But when they say, I will give you so much of monthly old age pension, or I will give you monthly 2,000 rupees for every woman in the family, or one woman head in the family, or I'll give you so much amount for every kid at school, or I'll give you free rice or free power or free water or something. They are delivering that because they believe there are votes in that. The problem is not so much that they're not honoring the pledges. They're honoring the wrong pledges. They're not really committing or honoring the right pledges. What are the right pledges? That requires us to think back and see what exactly should the government do. Is the government a master and we the mendicants, that they give us our own tax money and we are beggars? No. We, the human beings, collectively created an entity called government throughout history. Whatever you call the government, a tribal chief, a feudal lord, a monarch, a democratically elected government, a dictator, whatever be the form of government, the government is created by us, the human beings, in order to fulfill the collective needs which we cannot take care of individually. Where you study, what kind of clothes you wear, whom you marry, which house you build, in which kind of house you live, what business you do, what kind of profession you practice, what job you take up. These are all personal decisions. Government has no role. You decide your own fate. But there are some other things which are important for your life, but you cannot do on your own. You can do only collectively. You cannot build a school for your kids separately. You cannot have a hospital to take care of your family's healthcare problems. You cannot have your own park, however wealthy you are. You cannot build a road for yourself. You cannot have electricity grid, even if you're paying for electricity. You cannot have stormwater drainage. You are seeing every day a bit of a rainfall and there is flooding in our streets. It's not because of nature, it's because of bad governance, because the collective needs are ignored. Sewerage overflowing in the streets. Sewers getting emptied into lakes. Unhygienic practices. There's no rule of law. There's no protection of law. Crimes are not punished. And if you have a problem with a neighbor in a dispute, the dispute is not resolved lawfully within a reasonable period of time without too much of expense. It's almost impossible to get justice. These are things you cannot do on your own. They are the things government and government alone should do. That's the reason why we created government. What's happening in a country like India is the things that they necessarily have to do, for which they are created, they are generally ignoring them. We have substandard school education. Millions of children, their potential is not fulfilled. We have appallingly poor healthcare system. Millions are becoming poor. These are what any modern government should be doing. Individually we cannot do. All these the governments are ignoring. They don't make really specific pledges. Once in a while they may come up with something very easily deliverable to give satisfaction to voters and get the vote. But they're not really improving the system and the outcomes. But when it comes to individual welfare, that I give you this much money, I give you free power, free water, free something else, that they are delivering. It's not true that manifestos are not honored. So we must understand as voters and as citizens what is actually happening. Blaming the politicians across the board without understanding the complexity of the process does not lead to a solution. It will only lead to them versus us. Tu tu me me. Now, how do we make them do the real things that are necessary? Make the real pledges for which the government is actually created and make them deliver on that. That is the real challenge. One, we have to mobilize public opinion. First, we must understand what is the government for. Instead of thinking that government is there to give us freebies with our money, they are not the lords and masters, we are not mendicants. It's our tax money, we are the masters and they are our servants. Now the roles are reversed in the country. The governments, the chief ministers and the ministers, they say, we have given you this, I am giving you this, as if it's coming from their personal fortunes. No, it's our tax money. They're wasting a lot of it, swindling quite a bit of it. The rest of it they're transferring to us, our money, and then pretending as if they are benefactors. And we're all beneficiaries. The language also is one of mendicancy. Instead, we must make them do what ought to be done by them, for which we are paying taxes. The quality school education, healthcare without out-of-pocket expenditure, rule of law, infrastructure, basic amenities, opportunities for growth and employment, skills. That is the government's job. So we must be much more discriminating about understanding politics and manifestos and what they're doing and what they're not doing. So one is public awareness. That pressure constantly coming. Right now that pressure is not felt. Parties believe that if I offer the short-term welfare deliveries, popularly called freebies, but that's a pejorative expression. I would like to honor the people because nobody is a beggar. It's our money. So it's not free. They're not giving anything free to us. It's our money. But instead of deploying it in a manner that my incomes rise, I come out of poverty, they're perpetuating poverty and simply temporarily giving some relief. That has become fashionable today. That has become the passport to electoral success. That understanding must penetrate to the ordinary people. The second is local governments. If you localize power as much as possible with accountability, we understand the link between the vote and what happens to our lives. Whether the road is properly maintained, whether the traffic is running smoothly, whether the park is good, whether my kids are getting good schooling without spending money, exorbitant fee in private sector, whether I am getting good health care, whether every rain is leading to flooding or actually life is an even keel unless there is an unusual disaster. So all these, if I see the link between my vote and the taxes I pay and the services I receive and what happens to my life, then they'll be much more alert. We'll hold them to account. Right now in a centralized system, they're not delivering what ought to be delivered. We have also given up on the delivery, consciously or unconsciously. Therefore, most of the people in a poor country are seeking short-term individual welfare measures, and that they're delivering very effectively, increasingly effectively. Earlier, that was not delivered very well. There were lots of leakages in ration cards, in pensions, other things. Increasingly, with digital technology, better methods, they're delivering it very effectively. So there's a very complex process at work. What ought to be delivered is ignored. What should be an exception has now become the norm. And the government's political calling card is, I am giving you this, not we are doing these things collectively for everybody to come out of poverty. And I want young people to really understand this. Otherwise, the traditional criticism, manifestos are not honored, they are lying to us, that's not actually true. There must be a much more discriminating approach to politics, and then an understanding of the set of solutions required. Then we can pressurize them collectively and make the system work for us.